Timekeeping is everything. If you think about it carefully, a sports competition could not happen without Omega providing its services as official timekeeper.
I thought I'd won, but you never know until the official announcement comes.
And they're off. Mack is slow into his stride, and they're fairly tearing it up.
You know, I've had people win gold medals by 2 1,000ths of a second, and I've had people lose bronze medals by 1,000ths of a second.
The time is the outcome of our performance, and then everyone looking at the time to describe if the performance was good or bad. And this generates emotions.
Luxury Tribune presents Reloading Luxury with Omega. The Art of Timekeeping.
We are at the Weltklasse Diamond League meeting in the stadium on the field of play, where the athletes actually stand to start their 100-meter race.
On your marks. Set.
Today, Omega is a Swiss watch brand, part of the Swatch Group, founded in La Chaux-de-Fonds in 1848 and based in Bienne. Since the very beginning, Omega is known for its precision and chronometric performance. It has made history on numerous occasions. The Speedmaster Moonwatch for the first watch on the moon in 1969. The brand conquers a large audience in 1995 thanks to the James Bond franchise and the Seamaster 300. In 2013, Omega presents the first watch to resist magnetic fields of over 15,000 Gauss. But there is another great revolution achieved by Omega since 1932, being the official timekeeper of the Olympic Games, as well as major sporting competitions such as the Diamond League. On the eve of the 2024 Paris Olympic Games, timekeeping is crucial. Time drives sport, athletes race against the clock. Time and performance generate emotions and incredible stories among the technical team, the athletes, and the public. Cristina D'Agostino, editor-in-chief of Luxury Tribune, dives into timekeeping where technology, data analysis, and professional expertise are key. A journey on the field and in the Omega archives.
You need basically 3 things for a sports competition.
Alain Zobrist, CEO of Omega Timing.
You would need athletes who compete, you would need a place where they can compete, and you would need a timekeeper to measure their times. So the role Omega has is absolutely crucial. There would not be any Olympic Games without Omega.
That was exactly the vision of 1932, is to give to only one company the whole mandate, the whole mission to be there at the disposal of the Olympic Game organizer for organizing timekeeping.
Raynald Aeschlimann, CEO of Omega.
And they just took the best, the ones that had the possibility to have precise, totally neutral, and the best technology at that moment. They made an analysis, and Omega was awarded already in 1932 for doing exactly this job.
But the whole concept of timekeeping has completely changed in 90 years. Could you just tell us what were the milestones in terms of innovation?
When Omega was appointed for the very first time as official timekeeper, one watchmaker was sent all the way from Switzerland to Los Angeles with 30 stopwatches to measure the time of the athletes. And nowadays, there's no stopwatches anymore. We measure scores, times, distances with newest technologies, a lot of computers, specific cameras, sensors, computer vision, artificial intelligence. And all that evolution happened obviously gradually.
It's also because at that time we were already, with our split-second chronograph, doing some timekeeping, and the athletes themselves. They were very much willing to have this company called Omega because they already knew they can trust them. So one of the anecdotes is very clearly around all these years of being close to them that sometimes they just took some of our chronograph to train, because at that time they had no training with timing, and it was always very nice that at some point there were also discussion about should we give some of our chronograph for the people to train so that some of the other teams would think maybe we're together, and we've never been together with anybody especially. We've always been there, totally neutral with our technology to give the best and most precise timekeeping.
Throughout the years, I would say that it took about 20 years for electronic timekeeping to be used as main system after manual stopwatches. That transition happened mainly for one reason. It was to eliminate human reaction times, and computers eventually were able to provide more fairer results to athletes.
Do you have maybe an event or a special year in Olympic Games where those kind of difficulties came and made it change?
The turning point was certainly in 1960 at the Olympic Games, where two athletes in swimming finished with the same time. One was awarded the Olympic gold medal and the other one the Olympic record. So that obviously created a great controversy, and Omega was asked by the International Swimming Federation back then to come up with an idea on how these controversies could be eliminated in the future. And that was then the birth of the swimming touchpads, which made swimming the only sport where athletes stopped their times themselves.
Thank you, everybody.
He's got to keep it close. He needs to be about 24 flat. If he's 23.8 or 23.9, he will win. But if Cabbage has that half-second lead or more on Phelps, Phelps could be in major trouble. You know Cabbage is going to be out very, very fast.
That moment, just the lack of oxygen in your body and in your head, it makes things very, very blurry for your eyes. You just kind of, you're just really, really exhausted. And of course, we turn around, look at the board, and it takes a couple of moments just for everything to clear up.
To the naked eye watching that race.
He won the race. So to a naked eye, he won the race.
He gets it done again! He did it! He did it! He got it done!
I looked back and I saw 1/100. I was like, that just happened.
At the end, gets it done! 4 years ago, Crocker. Now it's Cabbage.
100 of second can have an impact on an athlete. How would you describe the relation you have and your athletes have to time?
It is what drives the sport. It's not a contact sport. It's not a team sport. It's an individualized sport that you're racing against the clock. And that truly is your main competitor.
Lance Brauman, coach.
I've had people win gold medals by 2 1,000ths of a second, and I've had people lose, bronze medals by 1,000ths of a second or miss a final. And all those small little breakdowns are, the things you're trying to find as a coach to get your athlete to the next level.
How do you handle this link with time?
The time is the outcome of our performance, and then everyone looking at the time to describe if the performance was good or bad. This generates emotions.
Louis Heyer, coach.
Everyone wants a good time. That means a good performance. That means you were good. But it's not always the case. This is the approach of a competition, but we also use time and data in training, and we train a lot more than we do competition. And the result of this is that they got tired because it's not possible to push yourself in every single session in order to get better time so that you can think, oh, I am good now. But in general, we should avoid this because then you're going to be tired at the Olympic Games.
We shall wait for the photograph to come up. We shall give you the result as soon as we possibly can. I don't think a slow-mo might even give us a definitive line.
What did you think when you crossed the line?
I had no clue what happened. I mean, and it's odd that like you can separate your race into zones, into parts, but once you come across the finish line, because it was so close, you don't know. I mean, it's like you're waiting and you're waiting. Like just say somebody's name to take the tension off the moment. So I just listened for my name. People were saying, I think you got it, or I think you got it. I'm like, you are not in charge here. I'm going to wait till I hear it from above.
Athletes on the track at the moment still don't know. As you see this replay, watch this. I thought, impossible to tell from that angle. It really is.
The people in the stands knew the winner before we knew. And so we're just listening, and we get that after effect, like we'll hear like the echo, and we really don't hear what they're saying, so they have to repeat it again. And by the time we hear it, everybody's already cheering. So we're like, okay, something happened. What was it?
how do you think this data can still improve their performance?
A couple of years ago, the athletes got data that were related to their performance at a specific point in time. So, for example, they got their reaction time, but they didn't know how they started really to get to that reaction time. Or they got their result, but they didn't know what happened or how they performed between start and finish. So now with these technologies, we can explain all this. We can detect an athlete's movement and how his body is moving during the race. We can count steps. We can understand at which point in time an athlete would accelerate or decelerate, and correlate that data with either his previous performances or with other athletes' performances. And it's not only available to athletes and coaches, it is also used to provide spectators watching these performances on TV with additional information. So you would see specific graphics, and last but not least, also media is receiving additional information about athletes' performances, which allowing them to tell more stories that before couldn't be told because the information simply weren't there. One of Omega's latest innovations are motion sensors and positioning systems. And thanks to these technologies, Omega is now capable to explain where an athlete gained or lost time during a race, and eventually why and where that athlete won a medal or not. And the technologies that we deploy for us to be able to do that varies from sport to sport. So we may have chips, physical chips in bibs or somewhere on the athlete to measure their acceleration, deceleration, speed, and position within the field of play. In other sports, we're using computer vision, so specific cameras that detect an athlete's movement, where we can also use artificial intelligence to understand exactly the athlete's performance and compare it with other athletes. Within our innovation process, we work very closely with athletes, and the feedback that we get is tremendous. It's very positive, not only from them, but also from their coaches.
What would you describe be the most striking innovation that's revolutionized the sport?
So I think it's definitely the embedded technology. So at the beginning, I can remember spending hours and hours in front of my computer doing some splits analysis or doing stride analysis, doing like frequency and step length analysis. And now I would say it's the technology that facilitates my job.
And the big challenge that we're having today is that everything we do is real time. So we want to make sure that there is no difference or no time difference between the data that we measure and the data that we show on TV through graphics. So the same challenge we're having with artificial intelligence, so the computing power behind it, is significant in order to be able to manage and understand and translate all that data that we generate. In athletics, for example, it's 2,000 data points per second per athlete. So there's a lot of data that is coming in, and the understanding of that data, artificial intelligence is going to help us a lot.
Measuring time is really technique, but do we still need men or women behind the technique?
Generally speaking, I think that we will see a shift of our timekeepers working eventually in other areas, but you will still have people operating machines or judging a performance. And that's the nature of some of the sports and some of the rules. If you're looking at gymnastics, there's always an element of execution. This cannot be interpreted by a machine. a suggestion may be done, but as long as humans have to interpret performance, you will always have humans interacting with technology.
So we are here just right in the middle of the field with the gun.
The electronic starting gun was firstly introduced in 2010 at the Olympic Games in Vancouver. There were two reasons why we moved from the former powder guns to electronic starting guns. The most important reason of the two is that it allowed to install little loudspeakers on the back of the starting blocks and enable the athletes to hear the gunshot at the exact same time. As sound travels, before that, the athlete further away from the gun would hear the gunshot a little bit later than the athlete closer to the gun. So now, with having the sound transmitted to loudspeakers behind the block, it's creating fair conditions for all of them.
So here we have the starting blocks.
The starting block is a very, very important device for all athletes. They can adjust the footrest according to their habits. They can put one footrest in front or in the back to adjust the space between both feet in the start. And also the footrest itself, you can adjust the angle of attack for every single foot. At the back of it, you will see a little loudspeaker where the athletes would hear the start command, and there is a little pressure sensor in the back of the block that measures 2,000 times per second the horizontal pressure of the athletes and enable us to understand the reaction times of every single athletes competing.
And then we have the cells over there at the end.
And then at the very end, you will see the deployment on the finish line with photo cells, photo finish cameras, and the last lap bell. It indicates the last lap athletes have to run. It's being rang by a federation official, and it's very symbolic for us as well. The last lap bell has never changed. We didn't replace the traditional bronze-made bell by an electronic device, and it's a tribute to our history as official timekeepers.
What is the most difficult things for you?
Well, everything needs to be perfect. There's no room for error. We can't do any mistakes. We can't tell a marathon runner after he run a little bit over 42 kilometers that he has to run again. The role as official timekeeper comes with a lot of pressure. These athletes have trained their entire life for a particular competition at the Olympics. Some of them 10 seconds. So we need to be ready. Athletes rely on us since many, many years. And we're very proud to take that responsibility and provide them with our services, enabling them to achieve their Olympic dreams.
In Paris 2024 Olympic Games, I know that with new sports will be measured. How do you proceed in this case? Do you have to understand really 100% the sports before being the timekeeper of these sports?
Yes, so the sport has some competition rules that have to be implemented. So depending on the sports, there is hardware to be developed or that already exists on the market and that we may integrate. Special software has to be developed also in order to be able to manage the competition throughout an Olympic Games. Here I'm speaking specifically about progression. So you have a group phase and you go to quarterfinals, semifinals, finals. So all this needs to be coded. And then you have all the data flows that are very specific as well, because all that data needs to be shared in real time to a lot of different stakeholders. And you need to make sure that these data flows are properly integrated as well. So luckily, we know a couple of years in advance whether new sports are going to be added to an Olympic program.
But do you need so many years to develop this kind of new measurement?
In general, we're not deploying new technologies for the first time at Olympic Games. We bring innovations, for example, to a national championship, then to a continental championship, to a world championship, and then to Olympics. So very rarely we would deploy something for the first time at an Olympic Games, simply because we want to make sure that it has been thoroughly tested before.
This is the women's 100-meter Olympic final.
What can we say about Paris 2024?
Every country is different. You have different circumstances, different cities, different mentalities, different ways of working. So every time it's like a new project. Even though we're doing more or less the same thing, it has to be planned again from scratch in order for it to work out perfectly in the end. I couldn't say what is the same. Everything is different.
I think we have exactly that, and for having been already in 8 Olympic Games, but also seeing the whole impact in many countries that I visited just after the Olympic Games. Olympic Games is a very unique and very positive sport event, the biggest sport event where every single athlete is reaching for its country the highest level of the performance that he can give, the highest, moment of his life. Olympic Games is what we can call it really the best of the sport. And it's very interesting to be there at the moment where somebody that is maybe not the most well-known athlete in the most well-known sport is getting into the hero of its country because it's making a gold medal. That's a unique feeling, not only for the country, but especially for this athlete, has been very much training alone or in his own sport for so many years.
Well, the Olympic Games are, truly special because they only come along every 4 years. So, you have to be not only right, that year, but, within a 4-year cycle, it's the room for error is very small. So you have to be very precise in everything that you're doing as far as getting ready for that specific year.
Olympic Games is this platform, is this moment where sport is being celebrated on all kind of base. And I'm very much looking forward for the new games because they're always bringing new sport, which maybe today we believe, are they really sport or not? And we have to make the timekeeping too. But maybe in 20 years will be maybe 1 or 2 of the most incredible sport of the games. Paris will be a very good platform. But what Paris has also understood with the team of Tony and the whole team of Paris 2024 is to make it even more accessible, to make it in the new ways, like the opening ceremony, like the marathon for everybody. And I think that's exactly this feeling that not only is important for the athlete, but also for the whole population. I can participate. I can also be a bit of this Olympic Games. And in today's world, I guess that's exactly what we all want, is to be looking at all these athletes, celebrating with them, but also being as close as possible. And that's what Paris 2024 will be.
But I'm sure this position as an official timekeeper is making some jealous. How do you succeed in keeping this title?
First of all, because we are perfect, and I can say it because the track record of that. And that's very important. Secondly, because, and this is even more important, we have the trust, the total trust of the IOC, but also of all the athletes. We see that in good times, we see that sometimes in bad times, a false start, where the athlete knows he's not going to participate. There's never any discussion because they trust, because we've been developing all this timekeeping equipment with them at their service. So it's very important to continue to be there, to bring new technologies, to bring everything we can in order to make it even more secure. And the last point is the dedication. Track record is good, but if you look in the future, that's why also our contract with the IOC is on a very long term, because we can always bring some new technologies.
One of the great privileges we have as official timekeepers is that we're very close to the athletes performing. So we're enabling their dreams to happen. Sometimes they do happen, sometimes they don't. In many cases, the performances of athletes are so close that you may have tights. In athletics, there was one in high jump in 2021 in Tokyo, where 2 athletes won a gold medal. It was history, and we were there measuring their performances.
It's the time. We can continue with the jump off.
Can we have 2 gold?
It's possible. It depends if you decide. If you both decide on Olympic championships.
You have a lot of these cases in many different sports where you have incredible stories that are being written where you know that with the work we did as official timekeepers, we truly enabled these stories to happen. So we consider ourselves very privileged to be official timekeepers of Olympic Games, understand the pressure that comes with it, and are driven by constant innovation and great performance of our equipments and our teams equally to the ones of the athletes.
Timekeeping is more than just measuring time. It's about innovation, understanding the evolution of sport, responsibility towards the athletes and their needs. There is no room for mistakes. It comes with a lot of pressure. Pressure of athletes playing the game of their life and making sure the public can experience the performance in real time. Reloading Luxury with Omega, a podcast presented and produced by Luxury Tribune, with abstracts from the film Every Split Second Counts, and the testimonials by Michael Phelps, Milorad Kavic, and Gail Devers. The podcast was produced in collaboration with Omega, La Souris Verte, and Cornland Studio.